Does anybody else just not want to talk to neighbors? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, does anybody else get that weird, irresistible urge to bend your toes and nothing fixes it? Okay, this is gonna sound insane, but please tell me someone knows what I mean. Sometimes I get this uncomfortable need to bend my toes. Like, it's not painful, but it's so dang uncomfortable it makes me twitch. It's worse the more I think about it, and nothing actually satisfies it until I get distracted or forget about it. I'll literally be sitting there trying every combination of toe bending, like maybe if I curl them halfway, or maybe if I flex them really hard this time, but nope. It's like the itch is in my brain, not my toes. What is that? Restless toe syndrome? Foot anxiety? A curse from the sock goblin? Please, someone tell me I'm not the only one losing my mind trying to stretch my toes into the void. Also, P.S. This really only happens like once a month when I think about it, and it's not severe or anything. I just realize I've never acknowledged it. So I don't know if I truly can relate with OP on this one, but ever since I've learned about some conditions like hammer toe, where likely because of the shoes you wear, your toes get like cramped and like bend. Sometimes I do have like a mental lock and like trying to make sure that everything isn't like bunched up and curled over like I'm gonna ruin my feet. I think honestly, I can maybe relate to what OP says with just about any body part. Like, let's say my left arm, if I think about it and I fixate on it, eventually I'm like, am I really comfortable with where my left arm is right now? The worst, and I'm sorry, is thinking about itching. Once I lock onto it and fixate on it, I will find an itch somewhere. Terabyte commented on the post, I'd call this restless leg syndrome. I get similar feelings, but in my whole leg. It can either be left or right, and sometimes both. It normally happens to me in the evening, and recently I've noticed that if I cool my feet and legs down, the symptoms tend to ease. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy figuring out if somebody else relates just a little bit too much to you, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, does anybody else eat a huge meal in one sitting and then never eat anything else for the day? Does anybody else just eat like 2,000 calories in one meal and then not eat for the rest of the day? I write this as I eat a full box of Hamburger Helper plus 500 grams of ground beef. It's 2 p.m. and I'm not eating any breakfast or dinner. Does anybody else do this? I'm a bachelor. Are there others like me? I'll eat 8 boiled potatoes or sometimes 8 boiled eggs or maybe a full package of steamed frozen vegetables. Or I'll eat 3 cans of Campbell's soup. Or I'll eat 600 grams of pasta and meatballs. Or I'll eat half a dozen peanut butter sandwiches. This is my diet as a 23-year-old Canadian man. Nobody taught me to do this. I'm just lazy and this routine just kind of evolved naturally. So am I alone in this? Am I weird? I don't like doing more dishes than I have to, so I just shove buckets down my gullet and then fast like a Buddhist for the rest of the day. So I myself definitely am not quite as bad as OP, but I've kind of become more pro 2 bigger meals in a day. On my best days, I aim for like no more than 2,000 calories, and then I just aim to have a decent breakfast and a decent dinner. I think sadly for OP, it goes without saying though that what they're doing is actually like straight up unhealthy. Not necessarily the one big meal thing, but OP saying, yeah, I'll just have 8 boiled potatoes or 8 boiled eggs. You know, I'll just slam down half a dozen peanut butter sandwiches. I mean, I guess all I can say is I hope OP's one big meal a day shifts wildly around from one thing to another, or else I'd be afraid OP has some kind of vitamin deficiency coming. EliseX commented, yep, I do this. After eating only lunches for a week or two, I stopped getting hungry in the morning and at night. I kind of forget that dinner and breakfast are supposed to be a thing. Another thing to note, you don't necessarily need to eat a balanced meal every day unless you notice ill effects. You can eat all vegetables one day and all carbs the next day. You still get the nutrients you need, your body doesn't use all the nutrients overnight. So as long as each week you're eating a mix of things, it works. Our next story is, does anybody else feel total dread the moment anything is scheduled? So I don't understand why, but whenever I put a schedule on something, I immediately start to dread it. Case in point, on Sundays I play D&D with my friends from uni. I really enjoy D&D, I really enjoy being with my friends, and most of the time I have a good time when I'm playing. And yet, I spend the entirety of Sunday morning and fairly often Saturday evening loathing the fact that I'm going to have to play D&D and being generally miserable. This extends to things like haircuts and such as well. I don't actually have any real problem with haircuts. I certainly don't enjoy them, but I don't have a problem with them specifically. And yet I'm currently utterly refusing to sort out a haircut and have my entire adult life, despite the fact that my hair is currently about 3 inches thick, just out of dread for having a schedule. I struggle with this in work too. I'm lucky that in the academic environment I work in, there's almost a culture of, so long as you're making good progress, we don't care if you work 2 hours or 20. Meaning that I can largely rock up and sod off as and when I want, but the moment someone schedules a meeting, you guessed it, total dread all day long. I don't know if I'm alone in that. I don't think I've ever met anyone else like it, but yeah. Am I going utterly mad, or have I just not found my people? Now, I feel like I can actually relate decently to OP here. Now, I don't think I go in complete shutdown mode like OP's kind of describing, but yeah, I have a certain level of kind of anxiety looking forward to really anything that I have scheduled that I have to appear for or do. Doctor's appointment, I arranged plans with a friend to go somewhere, even like scheduling something with the boys to go play like Repo or something this afternoon. I do have a level of, okay, I gotta build myself up for it, gotta steel myself and be ready for it. Haircuts, the dentist, it literally is like pulling teeth trying to get that scheduled for me. Just a silly variant commented on the post, 40 years old and I've had this/a similar issue my whole life. I think I hate obligation. Once I'm tied down to something, at least some part of me resents it. I love dancing, hate having to go to rehearsals. I love cooking for my friends. Once we have a date on the calendar for it, I want to cancel, or hope they do. I basically just suck it up and go through with it, but allow myself to occasionally cancel or skip. Our next story is, does anybody else feel like they're always eating or thinking about eating? I wanted to see if anyone else can relate to my situation because it doesn't feel normal and it's making me feel bad about myself. I feel like I'm always eating or wanting to eat. I try to focus on eating protein to be satiated, but I always end up hungry again an hour after eating, even after a huge meal where I'm uncomfortably full. In the past 4 hours, I've had steak egg rolls, ramen, mangoes, cheese, and a ham sandwich. Right now, I feel like I want to eat something else, but I'm also so self-conscious about gaining weight. I'm active, walk a lot, and weight lift, and my weight hasn't changed much ever, but the way I'm always wanting to eat makes me worry that someday I could become overweight. My issue is that when I try to restrict or not eat that snack, I get insane headaches and fatigue. I do have hypothyroidism, but am medicated. I've been tested for diabetes, I stay super hydrated, I strive for 8 hours of sleep. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think my hunger gets worse when I'm bored or watching TV, but also when I'm at work and distracted all day. I still think about food all the time. Is anyone else like this? And do you have tips for not thinking about food so much? So I do think there probably are some secondary things that might be causing what OP's feeling here, but also in general, I kind of feel like it's maybe that thing that we were evolved to have a focus on. OP's a pretty active person and they might just have a biology and a physiology that says, where's that next meal coming from? Granted, I could also just be a moron. So take that as it may. Chiron commented, it's called food noise and can be problematic for some. Our next story is, does anyone else ask for consent to kiss a first date? On first dates, I, male 24, specifically ask for consent before kissing my date. I find in movies and media you don't really see that, people just go for it. I've told my female friends about this and I usually get laughed at in a friendly way. I went on a date on Monday with this girl, female 24, that I really clicked with. No dead air during the entire 4.5 hour date. I worked the next morning and she knew that, so she suggested maybe wrapping up our date. Wasn't a bad idea, so she started grabbing her things and I popped the question. Could I kiss you before you go? She giggles a little and says yes. Being in my car, it was a little awkward, the positioning, so when I pulled over to her, it was more so her cheek exposed to me, so I ended up planting one right there. She awkwardly asked me if I meant to just kiss her cheek. I kind of laugh and say not really, but I didn't want to course correct the other way to kiss her on the lips if that is what she wanted. We ended up actually kissing, kept talking for another hour all giddy, and once again the issue of work came up, and I asked, "One more before you go?" And of course, she agreed. I've also had the opposite situation. I went on a few what I thought were dates with an old friend from high school, but were actually just friendly meetups to her. On the fourth meetup, we got some sushi, and the waiter handed me the bill for both of our meals. I didn't mind to pay for it, but she felt bad, but appreciated it. We went to an escape room after, and when we were wrapping things up, I popped the question. She said no, thought that they were just friendly meetups. She offered to pay for her half of the sushi, but I couldn't accept that, all because she said no to a kiss. It's not a transactional thing. Does anybody else ask for consent to kiss on a first date, or am I weird? I don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer here, as long as you're kind of like feeling it out. Like it could be a disaster if you just go all in and go for it without ever like kind of feeling it out. Regardless, I think the bottom line is if somebody is put off by you asking for consent to kiss them, I myself immediately become concerned about compatibility. Weeaboo number 2 commented, "As a girl, I prefer when guys do ask, because they often read me wrong and think I want to kiss when I don't. Also, them asking shows they care about my boundaries. You sound like a sweet guy and the date sounds like it went amazing. I hope for good things for your future." Our next story is, does anybody else feel completely drained after making like 2 plans? I swear, I used to be way more social, like back in college or even a couple of years ago, I could bounce from work to dinner with friends to some random hangout, do some sports stuff without thinking twice. Now I make 1 plan on a Saturday and I need the entire next day to emotionally recover. It's not even like I'm doing wild stuff. I went to a friend's barbecue last weekend, stayed for a few hours, talked to like 5 people max, and I was toast. Social battery completely dead. And the weird thing is, I want to go out. I miss being around people. I miss laughing with friends, just chilling. But something about it feels exhausting now. Maybe it's post-pandemic burnout or just getting older, but I hate how heavy it all feels. Also, it doesn't help that even the smallest plans come with this mental math of, can I afford this? Like, yeah, going out for a drink or 2 isn't insane, but when you're already budgeting tight, even casual stuff starts to feel like a luxury. That just adds another layer of stress to something that's supposed to be fun. Anyway, does anybody else just get tired even thinking about having a social weekend? Or is that just me turning into an indoor plant? I'm willing to bet that a money thing that OP brought up is probably the main root cause of everything. If OP's at the point of budgeting where a night out does feel like a luxury, pretty much anything is going to probably register on that scale of, can I afford this? Is it really justifiable to do this versus something that might make me some extra cash? Because I'm gonna be honest, it's often where my mind goes. While admittedly I can be a bit of a procrastinator, I also have a terrible time where if I'm not being productive, I'm thinking to myself, I'm costing myself, I should be making some kind of money. I should be putting in an effort right now. Like, all the time. Belgian Girl 88 commented, I have a 1 event per weekend rule, and weekend starts Friday night. So if we have a barbecue with friends on Saturday, we'll have nothing planned on Friday and Sunday, period. It's not you, it's normal and part of being an adult. Our next story is, does anyone else feel like being a bridesmaid is the biggest emotional and financial scam that nobody talks about? Does anybody else think being a bridesmaid is honestly one of the most expensive ripoffs we've normalized? Like, I'm not even the one getting married, but somehow I have to pay for a dress you picked, cover the alterations, book my own travel and hotel, get my hair and makeup done to match a look I didn't choose, show up to every single event on my own dime, bridal shower, rehearsal dinner, etc., and of course, fund the bachelorette party, which is somehow now a whole weekend trip. And God forbid it's a destination wedding or a destination bachelorette, because these days nothing is local or simple. Everything has to be extra, expensive, and over the top. We've moved so far away from intimate, affordable celebrations that now it's like the default is to make everything a production and the bridal party just has to fall in line and pay for it all. Now, I do realize some brides are generous and actually cover costs for their bridal party, but if we're being honest, most don't. It's become tradition for the bridesmaids to just absorb all the costs because we accepted the honor of being in the wedding. Like agreeing to be in someone's bridal party automatically makes you responsible for funding their vision, no matter how unrealistic or expensive it is. Am I just being petty and broke, or is anyone else tired of this? Because it really feels like being a bridesmaid is less about celebrating love and more about draining your bank account and still being expected to smile for the photos. Well, I have to say if there was ever a topic that I am woefully unprepared to talk about, it would probably be a bachelorette party. In fact, I haven't been to a wedding since I was a little kid, so honestly I have no idea how it usually works. There have been plenty of stories that come up on mostly like AITA about weddings and affording things. From what I recall, most sentiment was, if you can't make it, you can't make it. You know, it's not wrong to reach out and ask for assistance. And I remember people saying that they thought the bride and groom should pay for things like if they want a very specific bridesmaid dress. Shy T Magnet commented, I don't understand a world where the bride doesn't cover the dresses and the glam on the morning of. I can't fathom asking my best friends to shoulder the cost of my wants for my party. Our next story is, does anybody else feel like empathy towards animals is ruining their life? I don't know how to stop my brain from thinking about sad things related to animals. I see roadkill, my day is ruined. This whole Peanut the Squirrel story, just a mention makes me want to cry. A stray cat? I can't help but wonder where it goes to sleep at night. I donated to a cat sanctuary not too long ago, and while I was there was an 8-year-old cat suffering from a bone marrow cancer. He looked so sad, and I know I literally only saw him for maybe 10 minutes, but I can't stop thinking about him. I don't know how to be less empathetic towards every animal I see. It takes up all my mental capacity and just makes me feel so awful. Can anyone else relate? Edit, I appreciate everyone in the comments that admits to feeling the same way. I hate that we all feel this burden, but I'm happy I'm not alone. And it's good to see there are others in the world who feel like this and do what they can to help the animals. To those of you that are like, let it go, I don't have this issue, everything dies, like, thanks, I'm cured? I'm a big animal lover. I definitely feel for those animals too. I think what OP is describing here is kind of exactly why everyone and their mom are traumatized by those Sarah McLachlan in the arms of an angel animal cruelty videos. For just 3 cents a day, you can save this cat from being exploded. Everything OP described, it would definitely stick with me. The difference is whether or not it's debilitating for you. If it's that bad, it probably warrants some professional guidance. Jones Hayden commented, I feel bad about animals, but it's also a good thing. If people didn't feel bad, nobody would donate or care about helping animals and they would suffer even more. The fact that you care enough to donate means that you're doing something good for them. Empathy can hurt, but it's the reason why things such as animal shelters or animal rescue exist. Our next story is, does anybody else worry about teenagers now? I, 21-year-old female, was at Walmart and as I was leaving an aisle, a boy that looked around 13 ran past me with his cart almost hitting me. It didn't bother me, but I did make that awkward eye contact with a girl that was with him that looked to be 15 or 16. Now, I had a straight face and just went on my way. Well, behind me I hear, ugh, you freaking jerk. I just looked back at her with a stink face and continued on my way. Now, it didn't affect me right away, but while thinking about it, it really ticked me off. I had my daughter with me, and it just got me thinking if my daughter ever pulls that crap when she's older to a stranger that didn't even do nothing, I'll be sure as heck disciplining her. Anyways, this isn't the first time seeing teenagers act like that, and it really gets me worried that these people don't even care about their kids' manners. Don't mean to sound like a Karen, but dang, I hate some teenagers. Edit, something I didn't mention was that an adult was with them laughing. I'm not gonna assume it was their parent, but still surprised that an adult didn't speak up, but to each their own, I suppose. It's kind of hard for me to just generalize all teenagers and say, yeah, this current crop of teenagers are the worst it's ever been. That they continually get worse and worse as time goes on, because in reality, we've always had teenagers around who were jerks and unsavory to be around, and also, it's not just teenagers who are acting like that. You go to your local Walmart on a busy day, chances are you'll find plenty of adults who are absolute morons. I mean, there's a reason I saw that apparently Walmart employees are now wearing body cams. Twilling the Nas commented, "Part of me wonders if teens are always annoying and noticing it is just part of aging. But it seems exceptionally noticeable these days. I wonder if it has to do with them being isolated during COVID 5 years ago, and how that impacted development and socialization. I have to say, the horde of teen boys at my local YMCA is what grinds my gears the most. At least they're working out, I suppose." Our next story is, does anybody else like to swing as an adult? So basically, for all of my childhood and teens, I've been constantly swinging on a swing that's in my home garden. It was my fun leisure activity that helped me relax after a day at school or just chill out. 99% time spent on that swing was listening to music and daydreaming, creating scenarios and worlds in my mind. Man, I look back at it so fondly, but here's the question. Is it okay to do it as a young adult? Now, I can do stuff adult people can do. Is it weird that I want to still swing on a swing? Is it weird? Now, I don't have that much time to do it, but I can't listen to music anywhere else. I just get bored of it quickly. But on that swing, I just could immerse myself and forget about the outside world. Yeah, no, OP can't do it. It's ridiculous kiddie nonsense. In all reality, I would love to have a swing that I could just go on and relax and listen to music and just zone out myself. What could possibly be wrong about being an adult that wants to swing on a swing and listen to music? I feel like the only people who would have a problem with that are either deeply insecure people with toxic masculinity or somebody with an inner ear imbalance. Also, can we just point out the phrasing of, does anybody else like to swing as an adult? Stupidly Bored though commented, not where I thought that was going. OP responded saying, "You dirty-minded people, I should have phrased that better as someone with English as a second language." Our next story is, does anybody else's social skills fluctuate wildly from day to day? We all have our ups and downs, but it seems like most people are relatively consistent socially. The witty people I know are always pretty witty, even when in a crappy mood. The boring people are always pretty boring, even when in a good mood, etc. As far as I'm aware, I don't have bipolar or cyclothymia or even social anxiety, but my social skills seem to differ massively from day to day. Some days I could sell ham at a bat mitzvah and talk about anything with anyone and have them peeing with laughter. Other days I'm normal, and some days I just have nothing to say. It's as if I don't even have thoughts in my head in social settings, and any attempt at being funny falls flat. On the bad days, it's not as if I'm crippled with social anxiety. I'm just not able to be charismatic for some reason, and conversations don't come naturally. Those who first met me when I was firing on all cylinders must think I'm either rude or sad about something when they meet me in another state. I haven't been able to identify any causes. Sleep and diet don't seem to have much, if any, effect. I try to power through it and not allow these fluctuations to influence what I do though. Avoiding social situations only makes the bad days turn into bad weeks, and so on. Can anyone relate? And what's your strategy? I definitely relate to OP, and I'm not sure what the exact cause is. I'll admit that I probably do have more bad days than good days when I'm not sleeping well enough regularly enough. Especially with like the videos on this channel, there are some days where I feel like I'm killing it, and especially like the post-commentary stuff, it's coming naturally. And then there's some days where I feel like my voice is giving out and it's hard to even like string multiple sentences together well. And after I finish a story, I have to sit there for a minute trying to think of anything to come up with. But when I'm in doubt, I just try to do a callback or something. Like, if you give me a second, I'll be able to come up with something after I sit on the swing and listen to music and think about it. Deep Trench 34 commented, absolutely. One of the most annoying weaknesses I have is inconsistency. I'll be on like Donkey Kong one day and completely off the next for no apparent reason. It's held me back my entire life because I'll make this great impression but not be able to continue along the same lines. It's frustrating. Our next story is, does anybody else think the way most of us live our lives is kind of lame? From the richest part of the world to the poorest, we all kind of live the same kind of life. Wake up early, go work at some service industry or farm or mine, come home late, go to a grocery store, buy or rent a house, decorate it. Just the specific way we live our lives is kind of lame, no? Everyone goes to a grocery store, waits in line, buys the same produce. Everyone buys a house and gets way too invested into a specific kind of couch, argues about it with their partner, etc. Doesn't matter if you're in the US or Uganda, it's pretty much the same all over. Some places might have war, but that's rare. People in the past had less lame lives though. Even 100 years ago, they didn't have grocery stores, IKEAs, etc. They had a worse life, but they had it more interesting. I feel like this one is a disingenuous question. It's kind of like if you boil all sports down to, I don't like sports because all it is people taking one ball in some place and putting it somewhere else. If you take out all the competition, the teamwork, the strategizing, the athleticism, yeah, it's a pretty boring thing that's all pretty samey. People go to the grocery store and they buy mostly the same stuff, but then they go home and make awesome, delicious dishes that they enjoy. People come home from a long day working at, as OP pointed out, the mine, to a family they love to be around and want to be around. It's only boring if you don't yourself find anything interesting. Our next story is, does anybody else feel a deep sense of sadness thinking about their parents, even though they're still pretty okay and still alive? I'm 39 and I've got 2 kids, 8 and 5. In the past few years, I'm getting increasingly sad when I think about my mom and dad. They're both pretty much fine, but are getting older, now in their early 70s. I feel this sense of loss, perhaps the kind of thing I would have thought you'd get after they die. And even though I can see them when I want to and I have a great relationship with them, perhaps it has something to do with kids. Seeing them grow up, thinking about what my parents experienced and knowing that it's all in the past, and then feeling myself getting older too. It's really odd because, in general, I'm extremely happy. It's like a tragic sense of inevitability that I can't quite put into words properly. Edit, guys and gals, I'm absolutely blown away by everything written here. Thank you all for sharing and for the advice. It's one of those times when Reddit has a massive emotional support, so thank you. Clear Underwater made a great point about being present when you feel these thoughts, and I thought I would share something pretty cool I did the other year. I got my mom a Storyworth book, other brands available, so 52 questions, 1 per week. She answers in her own time, and when complete, you can publish it as a book. It's a nice keepsake, but it was also great for me to read about her memories and her life in way more detail than she's ever explained things in the past, and a bunch of new info. And for her, it was great as it let her relive her memories. Some old forgotten ones came back and she reconnected with some old friends. It's a nice thing to do and it generates nice convos as well. Thanks again, everyone. I just gotta say off the cuff, as somebody that honestly hasn't had enough conversations with their parents, I really like that book idea. I feel like there would be a lot for me to discover from my own parents. That said, I'm totally with OP. I've always had those thoughts about the inevitability. I remember a good while back, I was laying on my bed with my childhood dog who was 10 years old at the time, and with my dog I remember thinking about the inevitability of everything and how dogs don't live all that long, and I remember getting to the point of tears thinking about it's not that long left. I think it's just a pretty human thing to think about and honestly pretty endearing. Summer commented, I think you explained exactly why you're feeling that way. It makes perfect sense. You are realizing the circle of life is real. Our next story is, does anybody else just not want to talk to neighbors? Recently bought a new house, very welcoming neighbors, gift baskets, pastries, invitation to parties. Granted, it is a family-oriented neighborhood. As a dual-income house with no kids, only 3 furry babies, we kinda just want to come home and chill and not talk to anyone, but don't want to seem rude, so I try to tell myself maybe it'll pay off as neighbors can watch suspicious activities and tell you if they know or like you. We both work in person mostly, but like even holidays, I just want to stay inside and not talk to people. To be fair, I do have a very people-oriented job. Sometimes I spend 6 hours a day just in meetings. Last thing I want to do is talk more and make friends, but also don't want to seem antisocial, creepy, like what's going on in their house? Well, nothing. Literally nothing, and that's the point. Also, we'd always had bad experiences with neighbors to the point of almost going into a lawsuit. But seriously, when I retire and don't have a need to live in commuting distance, I'm moving somewhere where my neighbor is a couple miles away. Driving to your neighbor for some random convo would seem like a lot of effort. You know, I myself am just not a very outgoing person, and kind of like OP, growing up, I had bad experiences with our neighbors. Well, my entire family did. In our childhood home, our neighbor was a total jerk who tried to do everything they could to get us in trouble for whatever reason. I don't know why, but from the get-go, they had it out for us. I think maybe they wanted to buy the house that we moved into. Our next story is, does anybody else not enjoy cooking videos that start with, did you know that if you... This is a weird one, but I'm sure someone will know what I'm talking about. I see this kind of thing frequently on YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels. Did you know that if you add 1 pound of chicken thighs to a pot, season with paprika and garlic powder, add a block of cream cheese, etc., until finally the huge sentence ends with, you've just made name of dish. I don't know what's wrong with my brain, but it just puts me on edge. It's not like the actual instructions are any different, but if they had just made it normal, separate sentences, I'd feel so much more ready to accept each next step. When it's all set up as being one big video-long sentence, I find myself uneasy as if my brain is trying to parse the entire sentence in one go before I can continue. Maybe it's a trick for increasing viewer retention or something? I don't know. But when I see multiple of these in a row, it gets a little grating. No disrespect intended towards those who make these videos, you gotta do what you gotta do, it just bothers me. I hate these kinds of videos for like one of 3 reasons. One is usually they have the most grating AI voice on them. 2 is half the time in these cooking instruction videos, they don't actually tell you the measurements for anything. Add butter, add salt, add cream, and it just shows a video of people dumping some in. And you can't even trust that what they're showing is the actual recipe being made. And third is the fact that it's just a terrible medium to learn something like that. It's okay enough to watch if you just want to see how the food turns out and whatnot, but there's no way I'm gonna go to the kitchen, pull up that YouTube short again, and then pause every 2 seconds trying to scroll back and forth figuring out what the heck they even added. What do I do if I don't have the grape vinegar? It's why recipes just work better in a book or in a list. CCweed9104 commented, I always scrolled past when I hear that. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear some more stories and try to figure out if anybody else is exactly quite like you, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.